Several.
Hey, welcome, Gryph. Good job.
The current in-game date, let me go ahead and cycle back to the world map, is, see here, it is Reading 9th, the 13th age, year 578. It is the third month of the 16-month year. Several harrowing hours have passed since your fight atop the Silver Dragon Tower. The sailors you've recruited are at a near panic, and they only remain focused through your presence here and the irrefutable desire to leave before a dragon eats them. Mercifully, you have no pursuers. Most of Dragonhall must still be watching the cracking tower with a mixture of awe and terror. There's no kobold skiffs that take to the sea to go pursuing you. Ever so slowly, Blue City fades beyond the horizon. Your bodies are weary, nearly broken, grime and gore soaking you to the bone. Still, you look better than your extra traveler. Priestess Ulia lay still in her heavy chain and leather. Her silvery robes have been mostly ripped from her, and what remains are covered in blood. The ship's vigorous rocking has tossed her onto her back, vacant eyes staring upward and beyond. What have you all done in the hours since you left the Silver Dragon Tower?
Well, Aranas basically, as they left, did the quick thinking of bringing the corpse of the priestess, and his time now has mostly been spent trying to take care of that body as best he can. He has been praying over it for its peace and for its for her soul, really, and have tried to make the body seem as peaceful as possible as he continues his prayers and his way of his work and devotion. He's distressed right now. This did not go as we hoped, and he's finding solitude in his faith.
Does Aranas plan on disrobing her? To put her at peace?
He would to maybe wash her somewhat,
Sure.
and maybe even asking Jasmine if she has some clothes that she wouldn't mind him.
She is a slight woman, small in stature, maybe several inches taller than Geráck is, maybe barely 5 feet at best. Her skin is weathered and tanned, and removing her armor and her bloodied clothes, now reduced to rags, reveals numerous scars, some newer and some far old, ancient, decorating her entire body. The most telling of which would be two particular scars located in her upper back. The rumors, how it go, that once upon a time, this priestess could fly. But it seems that if she could, that ability was no longer hers. Her shoulders are heavily scarred.
Will reflect upon the pain that must have been her life. Praying perhaps to his goddess that things could be different. I won't take too much time right now, but
Jasmine, seeing you do this will certainly, while they're definitely, big, something to help cover her up and help you clean the body.
This is the point where other people tell me what they've been doing.
Let's see. Well, Aurelia, for her part, would mostly be currently keeping out of people's way, sitting at the front of the boat, the bow, I think it's called. Optimistic people might call it meditation, but anyone who knows her would see that it's just essentially seething in frustration and just anger, most likely at herself more than anyone else. there was definitely a time where she had thought that having nothing to lose would be her greatest strength, but the fight with Rohirrim has made it very clear that she has things to lose. And she isn't quite sure how to think about all that. Especially, she had thought that in 3 years' time she would have been done, as optimistic as that might have been at this point, but so far it's been a whole lot of nothing she accomplished in her original goals, at least. So to summarize, she's sitting at the front, looking out towards the not exactly calm sea, I'd imagine, but just looking out. Here.
Geráck hasn't been doing much of note, really. He has spent most of his time below deck, brooding and looking for something to drink, basically. And not really saying much to anybody else, and basically wanting to be by himself and just going around mumbling and yeah.
What's going through his mind?
He's very, very upset that Rohirrim got away, and he feels that this is one of the worst failures he has ever faced, and he feels really ashamed of his own abilities and what transpired. He felt like he should have done better, and he didn't.
Gryph?
Tempus will take time to catch up, to learn what things have happened in the last year, to hear all the stories that have occurred, talking to sailors that are not too terrified, or perhaps they're a bit confused, using his conversational skills to just learn what's occurred, what the current situation is, and playing off their confusion that he's a bit of a silly bugger, trying to make it relaxed and chat and learn. He'll also try to catch up with his colleagues of the past, to try and talk to them, to talk to Aurelia. Even in her meditative state that it looks like to Tempus, he will actually take the time to talk to her, standing probably beside her patiently for 10, 20, 30 minutes, hell, even probably an hour, to build up courage to actually talk to her, to discuss what's happened, to talk to Geráck, to hear. He will feel guilty. He appeared after he could potentially have saved or changed things. And he'll be concerned. He'll want to make a difference. He'll want to show if he can do anything to help his colleagues.
The sailors are tightly wound. They are heavily focused through rowing and through manipulating the rigging to get this ship as far away from Dragonhall as fast as they possibly can. Through snatches of things, Tempus here's the worst. We're currently at the tail end of winter, but the last harvest that was had in the prior autumn was worse than the harvest prior. The food shortages are continuing in the Empire, and they're not getting better. The Archmage's wards have universally failed, it seems. And almost as if the gods have abandoned the people, leaving them to try and fend for themselves. Everyone has heard grotesque rumors, and there's so much argument about how any given age ends. This, to a layman, to a common sailor, feels like the end of an age. The world is continuing to enshroud itself in darkness. The sun rises later, and it sets sooner. There is a several-hour difference there, perhaps 4 hours extra of darkness, compared to how you typically are at the end of winter and the start of spring, from years prior in this age. Deeply concerning. More than words can convey.
When talking to Geráck and saying that you really want to make a difference and help out, it will lift Geráck's spirits a bit and sort of bringing out from his brooding state a short time. And he will talk to you a bit about the more positive things that has happened in the past with him and the party, and basically what they have accomplished.
Such as sharing the story of those giants.
Yes, indeed.
Although it wasn't 9 frost giants he defeated with his bare hands.
No, the peasants can exaggerate a bit.
It was 3, wasn't it?
It was 1 actually.
And it wasn't with his bare hands.
No, it was with this hammer and also some help from Aranas, some blessings and such. I challenged him to single combat outside of a city I don't remember the name of at the top
Kavanaugh.
of my head. Kavanaugh.
Holy shit, good work, Manaki.
The Frostfist had besieged the city for several days, months even. And to end the siege without too much bloodshed, I challenged him to single combat, and I did manage to defeat him. And after I'd done so, his siblings started to, take care of the rest of his army, so to speak. With some help from our troops, of course.
As for Tempus talking to Aurelia, she would be rather non-responsive at first, slowly transitioning into one-word answers. But it is very clear to Tempus that she does actually want to talk to someone, and she does get more open talking about this and that, perhaps even mentioning that she worries a bit for Geráck mostly, as she thinks that she might be more of a bad influence on him than he is a good influence on her, and things like that. But it does seem to Tempus that just hanging out together there at the bow of the ship, just talking about random things, does drain her attention significantly.
By now, most sailors are slumped on the deck, exhausted from their frenetic activity. The ship is sailing at a good pace, although the skies are uncomfortably overcast. As such, the NPCs don't initially see it. A swirling of smoke above the middle of the deck, quickly coalescing into a translucent blob with 2 pinpricks of bluish light. Then the sailors start panicking again, shouting that lasts only a few moments before the blob speaks. This entity speaks for Superior Teraptus, one of 5 beneath Archmage Pertinax himself. This entity says that you are strongly requested to sail immediately for Horizon. This entity reveals that you must take whatever actions you deem necessary to ensure your arrival.
Is there more problems than usual at sea at the moment? Is there more problems than usual at sea at the moment? Like there has been for the last couple of months?
You call up at the smoke thing? Hey! In response to that, it will repeat its message. This entity speaks for Superior Teraptus.
Yes, okay.
I get the feeling we should be going to Horizon. Anyone disagree?
No, we should probably head there, but, should we go back to Newport and gather our fleet before we head there? How much problem
This
we're gonna
entity
face?
says that you are
Yes.
strongly requested to sail immediately for Horizon.
I heard you the first and the second.
Tempus will draw his fork.
Immediately.
Tempus will draw a fork and say, "To Horizon!" He doesn't have a cutlass, so...
This entity reveals that you must take whatever actions you deem necessary to ensure your arrival.
I like this guy. He's quite simple-minded.
Set course for Horizon, I guess.
Tempus looks disappointed that he didn't actually go this entity.
Let's see. With that, the smoke quickly disperses, allowing the sailors to, like, stare and gape, and then go back to panicking.
It is a good thing that the creature reminded us that we shouldn't just give up and drown spontaneously.
Indeed so. I think Lord Raptus knows that we know rather how dangerous the sea can be at this point.
Tempus like rolls his eyes. Do you know how long it would take me to walk back to land from the sea floor?
Why does that matter?
I don't drown.
Oh, I see. Well, good for you.
Hearty, like, pat on the back. Good for you. Tempest goes flying into the water.
I see you in horizon.
Sucker! That's what you get for turning into a cube at the most inconvenient moments, jackass.
You
we
gotta
have
throw
time
me.
to rope and
Go water skiing for the next several days.
How fast do you think Tempus?
If we lose speed, we can always throw him down there. He can pull the boat from underwater.
Can you swim that fast?
How much rope
on
do we
the
have,
bottom.
guys?
How much rope do we have?
It would not be enough to reach the seafloor.
Probably not.
Yes, but eventually the sailors do calm down. I mean, sure, why not? Smoke entities fucking appearing above the ship. Yeah, okay.
Not as bad as what they saw in Dragon.
Not as bad, no.
No.
By now, the room where our Aranas and Jasmine are sort of working has been lit. There's been lit several candles. Here's the darkness begins to crawl in as the body is laid down.
Okay.
It's now been dressed in comfortable clothes and has had a pillow under its head, sort of coming up. Eyes have been closed. It's laying very sort of respectfully. Attempted to clean the grime and problems of battle sort of off of it.
Yes. It's difficult to use cloths, even with the fresh water, to clean around so many open wounds that she has from all of the numerous slashes and bruises. And, I mean, she died due to, like, massive trauma from so much damage being dealt to her.
I suppose you wouldn't want to dress her too much then, simply because the clothes would be completely clotted with blood, and such. Although perhaps now she's pretty pale, most of the blood probably having left her.
Exsanguination.
Still be lightly clothed, just nothing heavy. Okay.
Aranas is in heavy thought at this point when he sort of looks at her. It's a mixed feeling of both sort of sadness and sort of, in a way, he isn't sure how he should feel about it. She's had a really hard life, and she died doing the right thing. Perhaps that by itself is a reward. On the other hand, she's also had a really hard life and never really had, as far as he knows at least, the ability to live it as she would. Well, it isn't a normal life, but then again, that was probably her choice. Regardless, he believes that he can do something about this, that he could perhaps give her another chance, that he could bring the power of his goddess into this vessel. The reason for this is that this person clearly died being part of something greater, being part of the basically fulfilling the right place, and that the destruction of that place and the killing of this person has brought things out of balance, have broken the Empire's unity. The governor has rebelled, if you could say it in such a way, in a pretty violent expulsion of what should have been, even if it was a crueler part of the Empire, still a part of the Empire. and he would like to attempt to bring this soul back to the body.
All right. Your first casting of Resurrection is a rather quick affair. Your divine patron, will not oppose this action. So, for your first time casting, which would normally only take a standard action, how does this look?
Well, his prayers have now been on his lips for quite a while. He hasn't really spoken to Jasmine, mostly gestured for what he would want her to do, what wounds to clean and such. As his lips have been constantly moving in silent prayer, just forming elven words that she would, well, be unlikely to understand even if she had heard them. His hands are working diligently, and his eyes are crystal clear. As darkness had begun approaching, the many candles leaving sort of a slightly sweet scent, meditation candles, through the room, he will look upon the woman laying there, now peaceful, their work really done at this point. Jasmine likely not finding much else to do about this corpse. As he brings his hand sort of over this woman's heart, his prayers grow slightly audible, and although his words are not really understood, and perhaps they don't really have a meaning that is to anyone but the Lady of Shards, he closes his eyes, and around his head sort of a light begins to shine, almost as if his entire body has this glow. When she looks at him at this moment, appears to be, well, a perfect being in a way. His mind and his body one. There is no objection. There's no questions. There's only pure, enlightened state. At this very moment, he is an exemplar, sort of a perfect state of faith.
A paragon of faith.
Yes. His lady is within his mind, and it is not him who speaks the words of the final prayer. It is her, a lady's, a woman's voice, sharp enough to be burned into the memory of whoever hears them. It is divine words, and although they are, again, not understood, their meaning is understood. They are bringing life into the dead, pure and real life. A form of birth, almost. Something holy and something so intimate that it almost burns the eyes to see it. As this light from around him sort of moves through his arm and down into the body. As, well, I imagine she would have a deep breath. That's the first thing.
Does Jasmine have a reaction to Aranas? Shoot him in the face?
No. Throughout this entire time, Jasmine has been very quiet. Throughout this entire time, addressing the body and cleaning it and so forth. She usually does not find any solace in the gods. It's not been something for her usually. But she can respect that Aranas does. The gods have never been a strong force for her, but as it all ended, and Aranas had just been kind of looking over the body, Jasmine had just had a small smile on her face, leaning against the back wall, expecting him to soon walk away, and, she felt some comfort in the fact that he would at least feel a little bit better after doing this. That was, of course, not what just happened. Instead, she watched as this occurred and heard those words echoed. And for Jasmine, this is not something, she's never seen anything like this before. As said, the gods had never been something she had really witnessed in action, just moreover than it's a thing that's there. And I'm also a little bit just in amazement as she watches this occur. Watches all of this happen. And while not saying anything, almost a look of awe, I suppose, is the best way of putting it.
Okay. There is a sharp inhalation The woman stirs, her fists clenching the air. A low moan rises from her scratched lip as the wounds, many of them, quickly begin to seal, and her eyes flutter. Once, twice, then burst to life with a searing orange intensity, staring accusatorily at Aranas. You brought me back.
Aranas, opening his eyes slowly, the divine vessel leaving him, but not entirely. Perhaps it never will entirely leave him. A new shine to his eyes and a new sort of paleness to his skin and way of, and sort of his new fluidity to his actions. As she looks at this woman, as he says, I did nothing. It was the Lady of Shards who brought you back.
She pounds the deck with her fists and slowly begins to push herself up. As noted, she is a slight woman, small in stature, though clearly athletic enough to wear her heavy chain and leather armor. Most of her wounds have healed, leaving a smattering of new scars upon her weathered skin. Why?
He looks at her contemplatively, as he will answer. In two parts, I suppose. One, that you fulfilled your station and your place, and that those who came to the tower robbed you of it. Such is not the way of the Lady of Shards, who would have seen a unity continue for the greater good. And secondly, he just stops a moment, thinking it over.
She will interject then. My unity persisted beyond death. I am here now, in absence of it.
Say, you dedicated your life to a greater purpose. And it seems only fitting that, could I grant you another chance to live your life, that I should.
She, fully rising now, wrinkles her nose. I serve. And the priestess speaks a whispered phrase of her own, her tongue quickly flowing over at least 19 syllables. Or, as commonly known, Elrinara, the great silver worm. I am only here because she told me to return. She scowls at Aranas. I would have gladly stayed at her side, even in death. But she said this world needed me more. Her shoulders stiffen. So, I am back. And, I suppose, here to aid you.
Aranas bows his head as he looks upon her and says, there is much aid needed for the world as it is. The compact has been broken.
I became aware of this whenever I saw Elrinara and the afterknife alongside me.
We attempted to stop the attack, but we were too late. By the time we reached the stairs leading to the top of the tower, the deed had just been done. We attempted to fight the perpetrator, but he proved too powerful for us, and we had to retreat. I recovered your remains. As the least that we could do.